Hello everyone, welcome to Prime Business. I am Pius Kojobaka, and looking at our stories. The Federation Association of Ghanaian Exporters, FAGE, says it stands ready to take advantage of the 3-year extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act by the US government to produce more value, add value, and export to the global market. According to the president of FAGE, Davis Kobo, its members are positioning themselves to leverage the extension deal to stay globally competitive. He spoke to Joy Business.
So as a country independently, we have a policy, the 24 economy, the Ghana economic growth enclave seeks to expand markets. And with all this and on continuously our exporters need to produce and look for alternative markets. So if AGOA has been extended for 3 years, and like I heard Mr. Mensah talking about apparel and garments, which is very true. And we are just going to take advantage of this and make sure that we continuously produce, add value, and export. Because if you look at the entire world, if you look at where Ghana is positioned, I think that 6 hours to Europe, we are there. And for us, if you take direct flight to the US, 12 hours maximum, you're in Dallas. So it tells you that it is a big opportunity for us and for us to our exporters to take advantage of it.
Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Export-Import Bank, Sylvester Mensah, described the 3-year extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act by the US government as a major opportunity to deepen Ghana's export presence, particularly in the garment and apparel sector.
Particularly for those of us who are more engaged in agriculture and who intend to process agriculture, you realize that the geopolitical situation seems to be shifting some particular businesses to the African region, particularly when it comes to garments and apparel. Most of the big brands that we wear, whether it is Nike, name them, most of them are produced in the Far East. Today, most of these big brands are moving closer to Africa, and in particular, Ghana. You'll be surprised to hear some of the brands that are currently being produced in Ghana, and which you and I would travel to UK, to Dubai, and other places to procure, only for us to realize that these that we are buying are produced here in Ghana. Ours is to take advantage of this geopolitical shift and at least ensure that we are able to maximize it to the effect of creating jobs for the mass of our people. The whole idea of resetting this country, the whole idea of a 24-hour economy, all come together in generating the kind of impact in the Ghana that we want, as proudly espoused by our President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, in his reset agenda.
Still on export, the Ghana Export-Import Bank has launched the GEXIM at 10 International Conference, a high-level forum aimed at reviewing a decade of export trade and industrial transformation. The launch is aimed at resetting the bank's strategy to drive Ghana's next phase of export-led growth. More in this report.
The Ghana Exim Bank has launched the GEXIM at 10 International Conference under the theme, A Decade of Enabling Export Trade and Industrial Transformation, Resetting GEXIM for the Next Frontier. Speaking at the launch, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Exim Bank, Sylvester Mensah, outlined expectations for the conference, describing it as a critical platform to review the bank's impact.
10 years signifies maturity, and of course 10 years GEXIM has achieved a lot, but a lot more can be achieved when policies and other realignments are taken a little more serious. Essentially, our intended GEXIM conference, which is part of activities marking the 10th anniversary, is also intended to generate a lot more ideas that will feed into our new strategic priorities, our new strategic plan. And so it's going to be an open session where we would have the benefit of best practice from sister Exim banks and other development banks. We are also inviting leading speakers on SME businesses, on the financing, on a host of others, blended finance, AI, and its introduction and support for effective management of SMEs and a host of others.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Ghana Exim Bank, Dr. Joseph Nyakote Dor, expressed optimism about Ghana's export prospects.
The 10th anniversary is a new chapter where we're going to now exhibit what we have done and also tell the whole country and the whole world what Exim is all about and what Ghana Exim is going to do. We want Ghana to be the focus and the frontier for export-led goods in the world. And so we've positioned ourselves in such a way that we're going to make sure that we export more, we build capacity, and also be focused on certain strategic areas, and that will help the country to be known and to be seen as a country for certain projects. For Exim, we are focusing on poultry, rice, and garment and apparel.
The conference will host the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, as a special guest of honor. Other dignitaries expected include the Minister for Trade and Agribusiness, Elizabeth Ofosu-Jare, and the Chief Executive of the Ghana Exim Bank. The two-day event is scheduled to take place from March 25th to March 26, 2026 in Accra.
Away from export-related stories, Head of Finance at Merban Capital, Nelson Kudjo-Agbaji, has welcomed Ghana's 3.8% economic expansion recorded in October 2025, describing it as an encouraging signal of recovery, but cautioned that the growth must translate into tangible relief for households and businesses. Speaking earlier on the marketplace, he stressed that while the figures point to improving macroeconomic conditions, sustaining the momentum will depend on deliberate policies that stimulate production, jobs, and as well as ease the cost of living.
Number one, the economy has done pretty well, even though we could have done better, considering the fact that there were significant milestones that we achieved during the course of last year. But although the monthly indicator may not give us a clear picture, however, I'm sure when the data for December is released, we will actually get to know what is the overall growth for the last quarter and that of the entire year. However, I think that going forward, most of this growth should be informed by policy decisions, policies that are intentional, policies that are focused, and policies that are result-oriented. I mean, the director just mentioned that agri couldn't do well in terms of contribution to the overall growth. I think that this will inform policy decision going forward, since agri is the mainstay of our economy, so that we can get more growth from the agricultural sector.
This is still prime business. The much-talked Independent Tax Appeals Board is set to become fully operational from next month. But what will be the impact of this on revenue mobilization and simplifying the tax processes for businesses? Joining us via Zoom is a tax and regulatory partner at Deloitte Ghana, Wisdom. Wisdom, thank you so much for joining us here on Prime Business. And I guess this is a welcome development. But really, what should businesses expect from the board?
All right, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. So the Independent Tax Appeals Board was introduced in 2020. It was an amendment to the Revenue Administration Act. Essentially, what the board does is to provide an avenue for businesses to challenge, to appeal decisions of the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. So think of it as a layer before going to court. You get the opportunity to present your case before an independent board to look into your tax matters, especially in relation to tax disputes. Businesses can expect efficiency because the regular court system would typically go through very formal procedures to conclude every case. So we are expecting that the Independent Tax Appeals Board, which has now become operational from 2026, will provide that efficiency to businesses. And businesses are there to do business and not to litigate. So this will give them a platform to quickly resolve their tax issues with the Ghana Revenue Authority and go back to concentrating on business. The board is also an independent one, so hopefully that also gives that trust and confidence in the business community that you can have an independent board that has the specialization in tax matters to deal fairly with your tax issues that you have with the Ghana Revenue Authority.
That's fine. Let's talk about the key changes in the VAT regime and what you anticipate that will really, have on the entire VAT system.
Right. Yeah. So, as viewers would know, Ghana's VAT regime has been changed. So there is a new act that took effect from 1st January this year, 2026. The key changes, I'll touch on 3 or 4 of these key changes. One is what we call the registration threshold. So not all businesses in Ghana are required to register and charge VAT. And that determination is based on how much sale you make. And in VAT terms, we call it threshold. So that threshold has now been increased from 200,000 Ghana cedis per annum to 750,000 Ghana cedis for businesses that deal in goods. For service providers, there is no threshold. So all service providers are supposed to register for VAT and charge and collect and remit same to the Ghana Revenue Authority. So that is a big change. Businesses falling within 200,000 sales a year would be required to charge VAT. Now, only those falling from 750,000 for goods, 750,000 Ghana cedis and above are required to charge VAT. So that gives a different color to those who are required to charge VAT. Then there is the COVID 1% levy that has been abolished, which is good news to everyone. Consumers can expect that at least that goes off their bill when they pay for goods and services. And then overall, the VAT rate used to be 21.9%. With these changes, the total VAT and levies is now 20%. So there is a reduction in the effective VAT rate. And that is also expected to give households some relief in relation to how much cost they bear for VAT when they purchase goods and services. And the last one I would want to add is that the VAT system has been simplified. What we had previously required that you charge VAT on other taxes that will be applied on the taxable value of goods and services, but that has been revised and the VAT system is now very simplified. So I expect that businesses would be able to easily charge VAT and account for same to the Ghana Revenue Authority. And with that ease in complying with the VAT law, we expect that compliance will be much higher. There will be much more voluntary compliance. And then the cost of maintaining resources to comply with the VAT law should be relatively lower compared to running a more complex VAT system.
And I know to that end, Deloitte Ghana will be holding the 2026 Tax and Regulatory Outlook tomorrow. What should participants expect and what time will the event start?
Right. So the Tax and Regulatory Outlook is a flagship tax and regulatory program for Deloitte. This comes off tomorrow from 9:30 a.m. It's on Zoom, and participants should expect detailed, insightful conversation on the operationalization of the Independent Tax Appeals Board. We are bringing the Executive Secretary and a board member of the Independent Tax Appeals Board to digest what really the Independent Tax Appeals Board mean for businesses. And then we would also look at some of the key changes we've had in our tax system and what to look out for from a business point of view. What tax rates should you avoid in 2026 and what legal rates should you pay attention to and ensure that your business keeps afloat and then you avoid avoidable penalties and interest. So it's a date tomorrow, the 15th of January, 9:30 a.m. on Zoom.
Wisdom Kwanu, thank you so much. A tax partner at Deloitte Ghana, I'm grateful for having you on Prime Business. Now, government has assured that port users and importers will not be made to pay any extra cost from the deployment of the artificial intelligence system at the country's ports. The system is aimed at ensuring efficiency and accuracy in duty payments. Speaking to the business community at a stakeholders engagement in Accra, Deputy Minister of Finance Thomas Nyaku Ampem assured that the system will promote fairness. More in this report. We shall bring you that story subsequently, but we've got to touch on this story quickly before we wrap up. Ghana's business and maritime environment is showing renewed strength in 2026, driven by a stronger cedi, improved foreign exchange buffers, and rising export earnings that are easing trade costs and stabilizing port operations. Kwame Yanka has more.
Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana says the cedi had strengthened about 40% against the US dollar, significantly easing import costs and reducing exchange rate pressures across the maritime value chain. The association added that foreign exchange reserves rose to over $11 billion, providing nearly 5 months of import cover and reinforcing market confidence. Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, Samson Asaki Awingobit, indicated that export earnings surged by estimated 60%, recording trade surpluses and easing pressure on the local currency. According to him, within the ports and maritime space, these gains translated into lower clearing costs, improved liquidity, smoother port operations, and a more predictable business environment.
The observable appreciation of the cedi is not accidental, but reflects discipline, monetary policy, improved market confidence, and tightened foreign exchange market activity that supported the stronger market fundamentals, all of which work directly to support importers and exporters. Ladies and gentlemen, resilience of external buffers, reserve adequate to cover significant months of import, underpin the cedi external stability. This is tangible buffer that provides confidence to traders and investors alike. Ladies and gentlemen, export growth contribution, strong performance in Ghana external sector with surplus and robust export earnings directly assist the foreign exchange position, reducing pressure on the local currency and enabling reduced import costs.
Meanwhile, Asaki Awingobit is pleading with government to support the establishment of rice processing plants close to farms to reduce post-harvest losses, improve quality, and enable producers to efficiently supply local and export markets.
What is lacking here is that where our rice farms are sitting and where the facilities, the mills are sitting are very far. And that has been a challenge. We are proposing and we are appealing to government that they should be able to help those who want to set up rice, processing plant, to be set up close to where the farm gates are, so that they harvest and straight away there are dryers, there are mulcher, straight away there are pipe ballers, and they can start processing so that to avoid the breakage of our rice. So we can have a long grain and we have a very good starch of the rice. It is the cost of doing business what I think we have to look at it, and we have to appeal to Minister of Agriculture to maybe give them a special subsidy that will reduce their cost. Because I don't imagine during Christmas, you go and you're buying 5 kg import rice of, let's say, 60 cities, and then you're buying the local rice of, say, 100 Ghana cedis. Definitely, if you go to the market, you buy the one that you can afford. And I think that the local ones cost rather be lower.
Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana urged the government to maintain and continue improving the business environment to boost the country's economy.
Thanks so much for watching Prime Business. I am Pius Kojobaka. Razak Musbao is next with Prime Sports.